firstly, that design. It looks like a Lego kit version of the previous generation Subaru Outback. You've got bits stuck on there seemingly for no reason, like this square bit there and some square bits there. It just looks pretty awkward in my opinion. Now I know I'm not anything special to look at either, but I didn't design me. This is just how I've weathered and turned out from the beginning, whereas someone actually penned this and thought it was a good looking package. Look, it does stand out, I'll give it that. And it, especially these days where all, you know, SUVs look like upside down bathtubs in my opinion, this at least, yeah, has a character about it. There are some good details though, or at least in my opinion, like the printing of Subaru across the back there. Even this, like, it looks like a Lego piece. Why is it joined like that? I don't know, just looks a bit awkward. But yeah, check out this. You open the boot, electronic boot on this mid-spec premium variant. You've got these embossed logos. You might not be able to see them on camera, but it looks like we can carry a shark on the roof, a Christmas tree. Just, yeah, little attention to detail, a sense of humor there, which is nice to see. You've also got some icons here giving you some measurements. You can fit 2 dogs in the back, or 1 dog if you have both seat rows up. And speaking of the boot, I love the versatility of this security blind. So it still has the same effect of a normal roller shutter, conceals your items so people can't see in, but this is much more practical in terms of folding it up. You don't have to worry about, you know, storing a big roller blind, and obviously it's going to be light in weight as well. You've got these hooks you can adjust to different spots, very easy to install. And then for the last section, you've got a magnet that just clips on. I think that's really handy. Also, while we're back here, we've got a netted section on the side, 12-volt socket, and most importantly, a full-size spare wheel under the boot floor. So that's going to be very important to those that are spending a lot of time on dirt roads or doing road trips with the family and so on. You don't have to worry about being stranded on the side of the road trying to stuff around with a tire repair kit and even a space saver spare that you've got to, you know, set to go to a certain speed. That's just a normal full-size spare wheel. Obviously you should head straight to the nearest tire shop and get your wheel repaired so you can put the spare back in. Nice big boot as well, as the Outback has always offered. You've got pull tabs on the side here so you can pop down the rear seats, or you can use the tabs on the tops of the seats as well, so it doesn't matter. You don't have to walk around to the back door every time. And the boot floor is pretty high because you've got heaps of ground clearance underneath. That makes it easy to slide in big items or heavy items, and it's flush as well, so you don't have to lift things over a lip. And then it's also plastic, so some vehicles come out with a painted section along here, then you've got to put a protective strip and all of that, whereas this is durable plastic all the way through, so it doesn't matter. It's not unlikely to scuff, put it that way. And then while we're back here, we might as well check out the rear seat area. The Outback has always been quite long, so it always offers good leg room, but a little bit narrow compared with some rivals, whereas I think this latest model does feel a little bit wider, a bit more spacious, even just the perception of space. But my head's nowhere near the ceiling. Even the pillow getting in and out, it's not a problem. And the lip to step over is not, you know, really big, so you don't have to worry about tripping up to get in. But yeah, look at all that leg room. My knee's nowhere near the seat, even if I was to roll it all the way back. You've got split pockets in the back as well, so you can put your iPad and your phone. You've got 2 climate vents and 2 different types of USB charging port, and a nice big armrest with cup holders. I had one criticism though, it is a little bit monotone back here for this premium version. You've got the touring and the wilderness above this, which do add a little bit of color and a little bit of flair. But I guess in some ways this is good for families, because if everything's black, you know, it's less likely to show wear and tear. You've got kids running in and out all the time. I think this is going to suit. But you've got some fabric on the door trims there, and some nice sort of brushed effect trimming, and even carpet lining for the bottle holders. And up at the front, we've got an all-new dashboard and center console area. I guess the biggest change is the touchscreen. It's a 12.1-inch system, and it's more of a square setup compared with the old portrait vertical style setup. But it also means you've got separated out climate control, so all of the climate is down here. You don't have to worry about digging into the screen every time, even though Subaru did a pretty good job of that by having sort of permanent buttons or button-like areas of the screen. But at least now yeah, you don't have to worry about, you know, if you're bouncing along on a rough road, it's kind of hard to touch a button on a screen, whereas this twisting knobs and so on, I think is a little bit easier, it's a little bit less distracting. There's no wireless charging pad down here, which is a little bit disappointing for a modern vehicle, but you've got more buttons and so on, some storage pockets, cup holders, and a nice big armrest. It's mounted pretty high as well, so you can just sit back and relax. It actually is useful. Some armrests are sort of too low, there's just a storage bucket basically, whereas this is, yeah, positioned. I can put my arm on there and rest my hand on the steering wheel. Got more of that fabric style of trimming across the dash, which does help to reduce that sort of echoiness of some, you know, lower spec models. I think that's a decent treatment, at least for this variant. And then under the bonnet, we've got an updated 2.5 litre naturally aspirated flat 4 engine. It produces 137 kilowatts and 254 newton meters, which doesn't stack up that well for this class if you're looking specifically at this class. And it's matched up to an updated CVT automatic transmission with all-wheel drive. Yeah, so on paper, if you're weighing up the rivals, the figures here don't look that impressive. But I think there is some appeal to an old school, what I would call old school setup. Like this is just naturally aspirated petrol even, you don't have to worry about diesel. But there's no plug-in hybrid or hybrid technology here to potentially worry about in the future. This is just put petrol in it, start it up and drive. I think it is a little bit disappointing that Subaru has persisted with its CVT. There was a lawsuit in America regarding its CVT transmission, but yeah, if it had an 8-speed, I think it would improve not potentially just longevity, but also engagement. So when you're driving this, you just got that typical whining noise from the gearbox. Anyway, let's go for a drive and I'll show you what it's like. Subaru obviously takes pride in vehicle safety, and there's no doubt about this is a safe package. But it does mean there are a lot of electronic safety systems, and some of which you might want to turn off. So I've got the driver monitoring camera turned off. As you can see straight away, as soon as I look at that screen, it's flashing. So it's almost, yeah, what's the screen for if you're not allowed to use it while you're driving? But anyway, you can turn that off in the menu. This is a separate menu, which is a little bit awkward because then everything else is in this eyesight menu. So you've got vehicle for the driver monitoring camera, but then you've got its own ADAS page, and you can go through and turn anything else off. So I've got all the lane keep assist stuff off. Crash avoidance, I think I've got all that left on. But it does mean you've got to go into this menu every time you start the car. And it can be a bit, you know, annoying if you want to turn that stuff off. I think the driver monitoring camera in particular, the lane keep assist is actually very good, very smart. It doesn't just, you know, pull the steering wheel around all over the place for no reason like some vehicles. It's actually a really good system, but the driver monitoring camera I think is over the top and too sensitive. You will probably want to turn that off. So that means going in every time to turn it off. Aside from that though, this is a very practical and easy to drive package. It's approachable. You can just get in this and drive it. You don't have to worry about thinking too much. In terms of just the powertrain, the pedal feel, the throttle feel and all that, the steering feel feels quite mechanical, a bit of weight to it. I've got a sense of what the tyres are doing as well. And the ride comfort is pretty much perfect. Like it's absorbing this pretty ordinary country road very well. There is a bit of body roll, a bit of body lean as to be expected. This is not a sports car or even a sports variant. This is just a practical runaround. But after the initial lean, that's when the good engineering shines through, because it doesn't become all bouncy and wallow around. You can go around corners at speed, hit a bump, and it remains very controlled and confident, which cannot be said for some of the cheaper alternatives out at the moment. They feel very comfortable, but as soon as you get onto a winding road like this, yeah, hit some bumps, starts to shake through the steering and so on. This feels always in control and safe in that respect. Obviously, you've got the all-wheel drive system helping out as well. And you've got pretty big tyres on this in terms of the sidewall height, so they're going to absorb some of the impacts, especially on rough dirt roads. Now in terms of performance, yeah, this is not going to be appealing to those who want a bit of zing with their drive. You go for the wilderness with the turbo engine, but I'll just show you the kind of kick down. So full throttle, it's pretty lethargic. That's still full throttle. It's just climbing slowly. It likes to rev, so the engine itself is not, or it doesn't seem like it's the issue. It's just the calibration of everything. It's very, yeah, relaxed and smooth, but just not very sporty. And it does mean that if you're down a nice winding road that requires a bit of acceleration, you know, tighter corners, not so much here because you can just cruise along, but yeah, tighter corners and so on, you might put your foot down a little bit and it's just, yeah, slowly pulling you out. So in that respects, if you do want something sporty, the turbo engine, or yeah, some of the alternatives. But overall, I think this is a balanced package, and especially useful, or especially appealing if you just want a practical run around. And again, no turbocharging, no hybrid, no diesel. This is a very easy thing to live with. Now in terms of fuel economy, I'm averaging 10.3 litres per 100 kilometres at the moment, which is not that impressive, and I haven't done performance testing yet, but I think you could get that down a little bit lower. But yeah, there are definitely more efficient options out there in this class. If it's any consolation, you can run this engine on 91 RON fuel, so that is going to save you a little bit of money compared with a turbocharged rival that might require 95 or 98. Visibility is excellent, as with most Subarus. You've got a nice view over the front, a big quarter window so you can see between the pillar and the mirror, and then even out the back you've got a nice big rear windscreen. The corner pillar is pretty thick, but yeah, you've definitely got a very good view compared with a lot of the rivals out there at the moment. Subaru says it has made various revisions to improve noise, vibration and harshness levels, and yeah, it does seem that way. I mean, modern Subarus have always been, or seemed, very well made. Like, there's no rattles or creaks from the interior trim, but I do notice we've got double glazed windows at the front now, or what I call double glaze. I think the traditional term double glaze means there's an air pocket in between two pieces of glass, but basically, yeah, two pieces of glass there, only on the front windows. That just helps with insulation and keeping the cabin quiet. Okay, so what about off-road? Well, I'm just going to take on the easier line. I won't go over to the right because it's been raining pretty much all day. I've taken the Hyundai Palisade up this section, and also the KGM Musso EV, and they both made it up. Slightly damp for the Palisade as well, actually, but probably not as wet as this. So to start with, I'm just going to leave it in the standard mode. I'm not going to touch the ESC or traction control, and we've got an X mode to play with later, but we'll just see how it goes in the standard mode. We'll save the other section for the Wilderness variant, which is just more set up for off-roading. It's got 240 millimeters of ground clearance, while this has 220, which is still pretty good actually. But yeah, this is more of an intermediate package. Let's just see how we go. Got wheel slip happening already. I ran up there before just to check it out, and yeah, it is very slippery today. It's trying, it's spinning a bit. Yeah, spinning too much. Look, I could probably weave the steering wheel around a bit, but I don't want the vehicle to end up sideways, so it's because it might damage it. And yeah, but let's just try out the X mode. And look, at the end of the day, this is probably more serious than what most owners are going to expect this Outback to do, but I'm just doing it as a bit of a test, and we can compare against other models that I've taken up here. For example, the Palisade. So now we'll activate X mode. There is just one mode. There's not like snow and mud and so on. It's just one mode. Once you push it, it's on. Let's see how we go. And it also activates the hill descent control as well. So same line, carry the same sort of speed, just gentle on the throttle to start with. Going further, that's for sure, but let's see. Struggling, it's trying to find the grip. Again, I could move the steering wheel around, but I really don't want the vehicle to end up, you know, horizontal with the mount, with the hill. That's full throttle. And yeah, it's just loading. If I keep, you know, sitting there, it might eventually overheat something, but let's see if hill descent control works in reverse. Yep. So it's catching the vehicle and just letting me steer where I need to go in reverse. That is awesome. Look, I don't want to suggest that would never go up here in these conditions. With a bit more speed, you might be able to find a slightly better line, but I'm pretty sure that's the best line, or the easiest line. You could let the tyres down a little bit, let some air out, and that would help, yeah, just wrap around the terrain a little bit more. But yeah, my testing is not about that. It's just testing it in factory trim so we can compare with other like-minded vehicles. I think that's done really well, especially for ground clearance. Like, some of these moguls are pretty aggressive. They're pretty steep little ruts. They might not look that steep on camera, but yeah, it had no problem getting over any of that. I'll be keen to test out the Wilderness Edition soon anyway. Let's go out now and do the performance test and see how it goes.